So I've just finished the book. Well, it's a book, but what it really is a collection of Winston Churchill's public addresses, speeches, the motivational speeches he gave over radio during his time combating Nazi Germany during World War II. It's a beautiful, brilliant novel. It's called "We Will All Go Down Fighting to the End." It's just his words. There's no commentary or anything. But I kind of liked that just to read his addresses, and I was really pleasantly surprised by how much I liked this book. I didn't know very much about Winston Churchill before, and it was nice to learn a little bit more about him. I think a lot of us kind of have heard a few things, but just some important, key facts or key ideas to keep in mind are Winston Churchill did actually serve as a soldier. He was a soldier for a time. He didn't fight in World War One as a soldier, but he did participate in World War One as a commander. But he fought in some skirmishes and things in India and Africa and other places. And so he knew firsthand what battle was like, which I think does help him to... it puts a little bit more strength behind his words and his speeches. He really does know what battle is like. He's kind of seen that darker side to it. But him personally, he's actually a really jolly and just amazing guy. He's very optimistic. Although he's a politician, he was a politician. He didn't really. He started as a conservative in 1900, and he defected to the Liberals 4 years later in 1904. He didn't really care about parties. That wasn't his thing. I think that says something about him. He cared more about doing what's right. He had some some very powerful ideas that he wanted to put in place. He had a great sense of humor, and you do see that in some of his speeches, because some of the speeches that we read are addresses or debates that he's giving in Parliament. So they even have people interrupting him and the way that he responds to them. Just to give you a little taste, for instance, there's one Lady Astor who was really nitpicking at him, and Lady Astor once said to him, "Oh, if I were married to you, I'd put poison in your coffee." And he replies almost instantly, "Oh, if I were married to you, I'd gladly drink it." And it's just that sort of thing. But he means it in good heart, and he was very kind to a lot of people. He was very loving of soldiers. He was very loving of his country, of Great Britain, of the UK. And I wanted to read two little excerpts, two little parts of his book that to me kind of show the importance of him as as the Prime Minister, but also I kind of want you to play around with this idea that we've all heard that wars are also fought with words, behind the armies and the strategies and things like that. There are, there sometimes is propaganda for sure, but hopefully it's two groups of people who are trying to endeavor on this quest of living out a good ideology. And of course, we do know nowadays that Nazi Germany was, living probably the most despicable or one of the most despicable ideologies. Well, it is the most despicable regime that we've seen in a long time. And their ideology was maybe they were trying to seduce some people into thinking they had great ideas, but ultimately their acts their actions spoke louder than their words. But I want you to play around with this idea of Hitler being kind of the the wordsman for that party, for Nazi Germany during World War II. You know, it was kind of partially his words that were fueling, you know, he was a big part of just that propaganda machine, just that anger and that sort of, that sort of linguistic, that sort of literal power that was coming from his words was basically being resisted in terms of a battle of words by Winston Churchill. They're both kind of playing this this tactical chess in terms of their speeches and in terms of motivation. One of the key differences between World War I and World War II, and of course, you know, there are many differences, and this is maybe a little bit of an oversimplification, but World War I was really just fought with, you know, soldiers and rifles, you know, just like guns and men. That was what was, you know, obviously there were horses and logistics and everything like that, but it was kind of that was kind of the strength behind an army, was their guns and their men. Whereas World War II was different. World War II, we saw more of a mechanized war, more of a slightly more sophisticated war, and so you get this delicate and intricate balance between naval power, air power, you know, obviously your army, your ground power as well. But those three forces are, for the first time, really on a large scale, being all played and interacting with each other. You know, maybe one side has an advantage in the air, and that plays to their advantage, but the other side, you know, has naval superiority. Basically, World War I fought with guns and men. World War II was fought with strategy, logistics, admirals and generals and captains of, pilots and captains of air. And it was also fought with motivation, because motivation played a really important role in sort of that longer, things were really hitting the home front, because they were being bombed. Both sides are being bombed. Anyway, with that in mind, keeping in mind that he is kind of the resistor, first of all, in his defense, in Churchill's defense, one of the best things that he did is he actually spotted and was weary of Nazi Germany really early on. He was worried about the possibility of war before it was generally even considered a possibility. And he gave this amazing speech. I'll read it so you can hear what it says. But he says, "So now the Admiralty wirelessly whispers through the ether to the tall masts of ships, and captains pace their decks, absorbed in thought. It is nothing. It is less than nothing. It is too foolish, too fantastic to be thought of in the 20th century. Or it is fire and murder leaping out of the darkness at our throats, torpedoes ripping the bellies of half-awakened ships, a sunrise on a vanished naval supremacy, and an island well guarded hitherto. At last defenseless. No, it is nothing. No one would do such things. Civilization has climbed above such perils. The interdependence of nations in trade and traffic, the sense of public law, the Hague Convention, liberal principles, the Labour Party, high finance, Christian charity, common sense have rendered such nightmares impossible. Are you quite sure? It would be a pity to be wrong. Such a mistake could only be made once for all." And that was kind of an address given to sort of wake people up, saying, there is a possibility for war. It could be coming, at our doorsteps very soon. We need to be careful. We need to be wary. We need to be ready. I really liked that. And then the second one that I would like to read is an excerpt, basically in the heat of the war, right in the middle of the war. there was a small period of time where France had already been overwhelmed. France had given up. And basically the only major power that was resisting, or was, formally resisting Nazi Germany, was the UK. This was before they had, attacked Russia, surprise attack to Russia. And this is before the US was involved. That he gives this address. He says, "I would say to the House, as I said to those who have joined this government, I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. We have before us an ordeal of the most grievous kind. We have before us many long months of toil and struggle. You ask what is our policy? I will say it is to wage war with all our might, with all the strength that God can give us, to wage war against a monstrous tyranny never surpassed in the dark, lamentable catalogue of human crime. You ask, what is our aim? I can answer in one word: victory. Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terror. Victory however long and hard the road may be. For without victory, there is no survival." I really loved this book. I recommend it to you. I think that learning more about World War II is important. It teaches us a lot of wonderful principles. It's dark, and there are things that make all of us uncomfortable. But I do think that it's important to learn about. And yeah, I would highly recommend you check out this book. I give it 5 stars. Amazing content. It's super authentic. It's a quick read. But thank you so much for watching.